company QDC have released their Tiger. This comes in slightly cheaper than the Anole VX of $2,500. This in the UK is priced at £1,450, a flagship IEM all the way. Let's discuss. First and foremost, I would like to extend a massive shout out to Jeremy from Singapore. Jeremy is an IEM, an audio dealer in this region. So if you do find you are looking for audio equipment, check out all of his information down below. Thank you so much for contacting QDC on behalf of CMA, and thank you so much to Bilim, a long-time supporter of the channel, for setting up this meeting, getting Jeremy to contact me, and contacting QDC on behalf of CMA. I really do appreciate it. I reviewed this unit 2 years ago at the beginning of the channel, and I titled the video "An IEM from the Gods" because of their tuning. In-ear monitors, commonly known as IEMs, I have a close relationship with these types of audio products, and back in 2019, I thought I had come to the journey's end within this listening environment. I had been dealing with IEMs since 2000. 19 years of multiple manufacturers due to their convenience, but everything was always the same. Slightly better, slightly worse, slightly different, never paradigm shifting. And putting down my latest two flagship IEMs, the 2019 Campfire Andromedas and Sennheiser IE800S, I said I'm done. Time to move permanently to headphones and speakers. There's just no change in this category. And then came along one of our viewers within our chats. This was when I was still very active in my friends chat, Zeus Pantera. I recommend checking out his channels down here. They pointed me towards this manufacturer, QDC, and they said you have to hear the Anole VX. Since that point, the IEM revolution has been paradigm shifting. With the introduction of Chi-Fi and some of the best manufacturers in Asia going at it head to head, we've had the biggest innovation in audio in the last 50 years. It's been remarkable. We have finally come full circle 2 years later. The Anole VX was a 10 balanced armature IEM that sounded nothing like balanced armatures, and I think that's what impressed me so much about them, and they sounded so much like headphones, to be honest with you. Even to date, they are absolutely remarkable. Oh, these are the IEMs themselves. Let's take these out carefully. These are beautiful. I was genuinely about to leave the hobby in regards to IEMs, but thanks to QDC and thanks to Anole VX, genuinely, it brought me back to the fold, and I'm thoroughly excited to have a look at this unit they have released and to bring the channel back full circle in regards to their lineup of monitors, because they know how to tune IEMs. First and foremost, let's look at some of the accessories. We get this beautiful case. It's leather. Yep, definitely leather. Magnetic, like that. Velvet interior, very nicely designed. The Anole VX case was a square one, and I love that case too. 6.3 to 3.5. This is for your amplifiers or something like a Diablo over there. Okay, this is where things get very, very interesting. Let me close this case. First and foremost, let's start at the bottom of the IEMs, the bottom of the cables. This unit has something very special. I've only seen one other manufacturer do this, and that's Final Audio. There is a release mechanism where it's like this tiny mini XLR sort of connection where you can change and interchange the adapters. This is absolutely fantastic. I think Heart Audio does something like this as well. This one's a 4.4 balanced, this one is a 3.5 single-ended, and this one's a 2.5 balanced. This is so useful, especially as a reviewer who constantly is changing devices. Honestly, and the cable sounds pretty damn decent. This is silver plated copper and it's braided and it's very tight. I think the Anole VX cable was a tiny bit thicker, but of the same manner. This cable is okay, it's nice, it sounds very decent, but it keeps its shape a tiny bit. It's not quite 100% straight, but it's very soft, absolutely no audiophonics. Opening up the little box, here we get some tips and some more tips. Okay, an aeroplane adapter as well. And we get two types of tips, a double flange and a mushroom tipped one as well. Finally, I think we've held off long enough. These are the QDC, first of all, connections. They're 2-pin, but a normal 2-pin won't work. They have their own proprietary 2-pin connection, I believe, still. This is titanium, the shell of these monitors, and look at that beautiful design. This unit has been designed for human ears. If we rotate the unit over, it's quite a narrow bore. It's not too wide, but it's not too narrow. We have the bit that sticks out and it goes into the contour of the ear, the bit that sits inside the bowl of the ear. It's very well shaped, very well articulated. The back of the IEM sticks out so that it fits perfectly inside the bowl of the ear. It's a matte finish. It's so premium feeling. I think this might be one of my favorite IEM designs, including the Anole VX. This is absolutely mesmerizing. Just look at that faceplate. Oh my goodness. Ergonomically, these fit as well as an AirPod Pro. And I stated about the Anole VX as well, that the Anole VX are a universal IEM in custom form. Genuinely, I don't believe you're going to get any more comfortable IEMs than these. If it comes across the channel, I'll point them out to you. But at the moment, these take the biscuit. They have been in my ears for the last 2 weeks while it's going through the break-in period, and they just disappear. The hook behind the ear is soft, cinches around the ear tightly. These IEMs don't sit too deep. They seal the outside of the ear canal. This is the size of the bore. It's not too small, but it's not too big either. And this is their mushroom tip. This, for me, has worked the best. We will discuss how tips change the sound characteristics of these IEMs in the sound section. But for now, these tips are comfortable, not huge open bore, and they seal ultra well, about 26 dB or so. These IEMs go all the way up to 70 kilohertz, so it's an extremely wide bandwidth, 105 dB sensitivity. They are 14 or 15 ohm, full specifications on the screen now. But they're very easy to drive, extraordinarily sensitive, so you have to be careful with equipment, which we will discuss in the equipment section. But I just can't get over the feel and the design of this IEM. This is absolutely stunning. First of all, 5 tigers out of 5 for comfort, 5 tigers out of 5 for design. I wasn't expecting any less from QDC. They are one of my favorite IEM manufacturers, period. If you go back to the Anole VX review from 2 years ago, my own unit I purchased with my own money, and check out the review. I think you might find it very interesting. These are something special. There will be a lot of comparisons to the Anole VX in this review, and Unique Melody MEST Mark II and Monark Mark IIs as well, so bear that in mind. This sits in the lower tier flagship category of up to about 1800, and then we have the mid-tier flagship of about 2000 to 3000, and the super flagships of MAD 24, etc. over there from 3500 up to infinity. Design, comfort, absolutely brilliant. Accessories, decent. Case, wonderful. This is a backpack case. This is not a pocket case. It smells very nice, like Italian shoes, genuinely. I keep sniffing cases. Maybe a problem there somewhere that I have to discuss with my therapist. So, arbitrary things out of the way. Cable, okay. Adapters, superb. Design, fantastic. Feel, incredible. Let's move over to the sound. As I stated, these IEMs are very easy to drive, so we can drive them on anything from, where are you? Here you are. This is the Q-Style M15, the best dongle under $500, period. My luxury and precision P6 Pro has a dongle companion. It's for $600. It's a ladder DAC. I'll bring it in for you guys for review. I promise. I can't wait, and I can't wait to put it up against this. It's 3 times the price of this, but I will bring it up for review for you guys. The next one being this one, the Cord Hugo 2 with a to-go over there in the box. Thank you, Cord. I really do appreciate it. And Diablo, IFI, you're legends. Thank you so much for sending this in for review. So, flagship IEM, flagship equipment to run it on. But like I stated, they are sensitive. They will have a noise floor on a majority of things like the IFI Go Blue, etc. They will have a noise floor and a hiss, but on the P6P and the M15 and on the Hugo 2, you are good to go. When you have $1,500 in the UK, £1,450 IEM, so about $1,500 in US, I presume, you really want to put these things on flagship equipment and not just throw them on an Apple dongle, because you're not going to get the best out of them. Besides, these have eStat drivers in them and they're hard to drive in that aspect well. Not to get loud, but to drive consistently and well. That's why I put it on my luxury and precision P6 Pro. This is a super flagship DAP at $4,000. It's a ladder DAC, and you'll see when we get to the sound section what you think about that setup. I can only give you my experience. IEMs are very subjective, unfortunately, due to our ear canals, due to the tips, due to the change, and it's very personal to us. So take it with a pinch of salt, because you will get variations from one person to another depending on our hearing frequency response. First and foremost, the sound characteristics of the QDC Tiger. I think this unit was designed for CMA. I mean, our emblem is a tiger. It's very fitting, genuinely, and it's very fitting that it's come back in for review and at this time. They are neutral bright, so they have a Sesvara-esque tuning. If you look at the Sesvara frequency response, it's very close to this in my ears when I have a listen to this, though there is an elevation in the mid bass by a couple of dB, probably more than Sesvara's, and depending on the equipment there might be a slight dip further than Sesvara's in the mid-range, but not always. So you have a neutral bright sound signature with a slightly leaning treble forward, but smooth as silk. There are 8 drivers in this unit, 2, 2, 2, and 2 with a 4-way crossover. The treble region being controlled by electrostatic drivers, or eStats as we call them, and the rest balanced armatures. But QDC got over the balanced armature timbre issue a long time ago. They do not sound like balanced armatures. They don't have that brittle, dry, cardboardy sort of weird timbre. Sometimes sounds a bit plasticky. No. Like Mad 24 from Ambient Acoustics, they managed to tune that out. This neutral brightness is really good, and it's not ultra bright, it's just slightly bright leaning of the flat frequency response. So depending on the tips, you might edge out the slight V-taper a little bit, or you might flatten it out. Using these mushroom tips myself is the most neutral or close to neutral as you're going to get, and its sound characteristics is clear, clean, precise. These, without a doubt, hands down, are the most technical IEMs I've heard in this price category of $1,000 to $1,400. They are on point at every point. Ultra detailed, high resolution, very quick, stages 360 degrees. It's not overly large. You don't have a humongous stage like the Mad 24s, but it's precise, it's concise, and it will deliver what the studio intended for the track. Basically not exaggerating the soundstage of the track, but being able to collapse it and pull it away. Vocals being able to come in and move away. Punchy without being overly overbearing into the mid-range. It's just enough. Sub bass all the way down to 30 Hertz, I say, and very consistent, not boosted, but very in line with the mid bass. Upper bass region perfectly tonally dense, but not affecting the mid-range, and mid-range is slightly laid back due to that dip we mentioned, like Sesvara's, but vocals are slightly pushed back, so pushed towards you, but clear, texturally rich, and very good for female vocals. Upper mid-range in the ear gain region, it's actually very well filled in, never sibilant or harsh. It will shine with high quality recordings. And then the treble region doesn't come forward, but it's slightly forward leaning, pushing, so that you are actually getting a lot more detail up there than being just bright. No, it's actually pushing the detail in your ears, but it's smooth, it's very well extended, very airy, and fantastic for detail retrieval. The eStat drivers are very well tuned, and most importantly, you don't hear the crossover at all. It's as if it's one cohesive, balanced driver. Okay, let's jump onto some equipment we have used and get some sound characteristics, starting with the best of the best. The luxury and precision P6 Pro. This unit provides a moonlit, so a pitch black background, moon bright night soundscape, giving you that neutral bright sound signature. Every element is highlighted, it's very transparent, and sometimes it feels as though the IEMs have fallen out of your ears and you go like this and you realize they're sealed tight. But because they don't build up resonances, they don't build up a pressure, some IEM do that unfortunately, you think, did the IEMs fall out of my ears or have they broken the seal? Because it's so airy within the ear canal. This is absolutely fantastic. No ear canal sweat for some of you strange little munchkins. And definitely none of that resonance is building up, but viscerally impactful in the mid bass and rumbly but extraordinarily tight in the sub bass. I think the sub bass actually provides the same soundscape as the Moondrop variations over there. They have that sort of sub bass tightness, but it's very subwoofer-esque, but lean and clean and mean, and only providing enough when the track calls for it. With the luxury and precision P6 Pro, it's textural information for jazz music, saxophones, drum skins that are highlighted the most. They are very texturally rich, they are beautifully presented and very accurately placed within the stage. They don't have the weirdness of obviously the Unique Melody MEST Mark II. One of my favorite IEMs incidentally, it's fantastic, but it's not exactly reference. This is reference. I think you could genuinely mix with this IEM. It's that reference and yet highly musical, beautifully toned, and I have not been able to use any other IEM unless it's my Mad 24s over there since it's come in for review. This is exceptional. For the very first time, my amazing Q-Style M15 dongle feels as though it's lacking a little bit in the detail retrieval because it's been out-resolved by the drivers, so you're getting the full impact of this. It drives it perfectly fine, don't get me wrong, absolutely perfectly, so it's very adequate and very good. But if we are talking about driving these to their fullest potential, you're looking at a Hugo 2, you're looking at a P6P, top of the line stuff to get the best out of them. But they can be driven by anything. They sound good on a lot of things if there isn't any hiss, but on high-end equipment, they are absolutely fantastic. In comparison with the Anole VX, I think they are more detail retrieving than the Anole VX incidentally, and those are $1,000 more. I've no idea how much they are now, but they have brought down all the technologies, it seems, from the Anole VX into this package, and they have tuned this remarkably well. I think bass region in the sub bass is better than Anole VX, and I think in the treble region it retrieved more detail. But I think the Anole VX had a more flat frequency response, linear rise in the mid-range without that tiny bit of a dip, and for me that was a little bit more engaging. And also the Anole VX I think is about 5% more resolving. My friend and one of our viewers is bringing the Anole VX back in July. I will update this and I will let you guys know. But after this, I'm going to do my absolute best to get you guys the V14 review as well to see where this sits within the QDC lineup. But look at this shell. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Oh my goodness. Stunning. So, all of that out of the way, let's discuss the QDC Tiger's frequency response breakdown with the track through audible listening. Working our way downwards, the treble region using the track Hans Zimmer's Pirates of the Caribbean Live is very well articulated. So the strings are slightly forward, you get a nice separation between all the violins and cellos and things in the upper end of the spectrum in this category. It's very resolving, airy, and it showcases the arena it's been recorded in, so it's really open, goes up, and you don't feel claustrophobic within that track. Separation of the elements of all the instruments doesn't get too discordant, which is fantastic for this price point category of the lower tier flagships. Everything seems to be very well defined actually. Separation is one of QDC's strengths. In regards to a reference layout of the track, it doesn't nudge things the way, for example, Unique Melody MEST Mark II does, where nothing's ever in the place that you imagine the engineer placing the instruments. You know, everything's, if it's there, it does this sort of tilty thing and textural thing and bone conduction thing that just puts things out of phase and out of placement. It's wonderful to listen to. It's a beautiful presentation, but it's not very accurate. This, if it's meant to be there, it will showcase there. And by the way, the soundstage, binding that with the frequency response breakdown is good to nice on this. It's not overly huge the way the Ambient Acoustics MAD 24 I would say would be, but it's more of a 3D holographic image and everything is very concisely put into place. Can it come forward too much? Is it overly treble? Not really, depending on the tips you use. Their double flange would do that, give you more of a V-shaped taper, I would say, like the IER Z1Rs. But by itself with these mushroom tips, no chance. It's lovely. Ever so slightly forward, emphasized, but smooth, very articulate, very detailed. Dropping down to the mid-range, the upper mid-range, where ear gain is, audibly with these tips seems to be nicely filled in. It's not too far back and it's not too forward, causing shoutiness the way sometimes LCD5 does on certain equipment. No, it's very smooth, very well articulated, and it actually fills in nicely. I'm very sensitive to that area. That's why I love Atrium and Verite Open and certain headphones from ZMF like that, because they seem to tame that down a bit. A lot of people have their own preferences in regards to this part of the frequency response. Whether it follows the curve or not, that's up to the manufacturer, but it really does emphasize on the individual truly, because if you're sensitive to that, or if you have a massive dip in that part of the hearing, of your hearing I should say, you will find it a little kind of too hollow and a little too dark there, for example on certain headphones from ZMF. But if you are very sensitive to that, sometimes it can come across a bit shouty. That's why LCD5 some people have problem with, because they actually have not a dip in that part of their hearing, but more of an elevation. So therefore together it causes that mishmash. But on the Tigers, I will say it's nicely balanced, very nicely balanced. The mid-mids are very neutral, again, I would say down the line, but it's the lower mids that are a little tiny bit recessed, pushed back the way the IER Z1Rs is. But the upper bass region is full enough that it doesn't cause either a bleed or a thinness because of that treble region sometimes coming a tiny bit forward. So it's very well balanced. Using the right tips, obviously like these ones, mid-range is a little bit more filled in than it is on the double flange, but it's a tiny bit set back so that the vocals a little bit pushed back towards you like that. Dropping down to the mid bass, there is a couple of dB of elevation here, so you get a nice visceral punch, but it's actually in line with the frequency response of the QDC Tiger itself. So there is a tiny bit of visceral punch and impact because of that elevation, but it's not overly done. For example, from memory, I think MEST has quite a bump there, if I recall correctly. It's been a while, freaking hell, it's been about 20 months to be honest with you. So this is very well balanced. Sub bass is in line with the mid bass on this IEM, so that you get just enough salt on your chicken, just enough to go, okay, I'm getting excellent sub bass, so that those cellos and double bass, etc. we discussed at the beginning of the frequency response breakdown of Hans Zimmer's Pirates of the Caribbean Live is full-bodied, not thin sounding, and very well articulated. Textural information is pretty well done as usual. Tactility is not bad at all, especially on a DAP like the one back there, the Luxury and Precision P6 Pro. On a Hugo 2 and To Go, very punchy, very full sounding, and if you add the warm filter to this unit, oh, it becomes heavenly. It's absolutely fantastic. I think it has better sub bass than the Anole VX, genuinely. In fact, feeling and sounding like dynamic headphones rather than balanced armatures. It's very well tuned. Genuinely, the frequency response of this is very much like the Anole VX with that tiny bit of dip in the mid-range like we mentioned, but it does have certain performance boosts over that unit. That should give you a small summary of the frequency response of this unit. It's actually very well balanced, very well tuned. This company know how to make IEMs and how to make them sound freaking great. I've been very surprised and genuinely impressed completely by these IEMs, and I just can't get over that design. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Let's talk about some of the caveats of this IEM. One, it's so sensitive, on certain equipment it will hiss, so bear that in mind. Like the Andromedas, they can be quite picky, and the Ambient Acoustics MAT 24s and MAT 16s as well. Some of these hiss, and because they're so easy to drive, they get loud on anything, and it takes a little finesse and a little decent equipment to get them to shine. But when they shine, nothing touches them. That's the thing. Second of all, when you get this out of the box, they're very V-shaped and sharp, so you need to break these in for 60 hours minimum. This is essential. The double flange tips will lean into the V-shape. The mushroom will give you more of a reference sound, so bear that in mind. And you can also try some of your own tips as well. IEMs are a tip rolling situation. You need to find the best one for you. Sometimes the manufacturers don't provide the right tips for your ears, but for me, these tips that it came with were absolutely fantastic. One more caveat would be, I love the cable. I love this connection thing. This is fantastic, but I wish the cable was a little bit thicker and a little bit more premium feeling. At the moment, it feels just good enough. Just good enough. But this connection, disconnection and connection for single-ended and balanced is incredible. I think that's the only two caveats I have for this unit. Price to performance ratio, they exceed their price, genuinely. Before we move on, let's discuss some comparisons against some of the other beasts in this category. I think against the IER Z1R, the IER Z1R gives you more of a fun sound signature with more bass. Better bass? Maybe in technicality, but in textural information and speed, I don't think so. It's more dynamic, I think, in the IER Z1Rs. But the mid-range is meh, unless you listen on the Luxury and Precision P6 Pro or Gold Touch. Otherwise, it can be a bit annoying. And the design, build quality is incredible, just as good as this, but ergonomically to wear is one of the worst IEMs I've experienced. It's absolutely terrible. Each driver weighs 25 grams. It's not a good experience. Treble region, this out-resolves it, and mid-range, this out-resolves it. Against the Unique Melody MEST Mark II, I think that just has more of everything. Not better, just more. Sub-bass, yeah, more. Mid-range, yeah, more. Textural information is very good. Because of the bone conduction driver, it's very tactile on that thing. I think it's the most tactile thing you're gonna find under 2000. But tonally, this is much better. This is more technical. It's more reference. Against the Monark Mark IIs, I only spent a little time with those. I think these out-resolve it, but I think those had bigger stage. I think the stage was where those would take it over this, but everything else I would genuinely give to the Tigers. When I bring the Monark Mark IIs in for review, I'll do a proper shootout in this category for you guys, like I did with the super flagships, which feels like 2 years ago now, so we can revisit it. But as an all-round IEM, excellent at everything from fit to finish to sound quality, I pick QDC Tiger. There's always a caveat with the Monark Mark IIs, with the MEST Mark IIs, with the IER Z1Rs. I don't find any of that with this. Consistent, precise, lean, clean, linear sounding, reference sounding, and gets out of the way of the music. If that's what you're looking for, this is what you need. I love these. They are superb. Let's do the scores. Build quality, 5 Tigers out of 5. Accessories, 5 Tigers out of 5. Sound quality, 5 Tigers out of 5. This, I think, might win an award this year. Let's see what the V14 brings us, but that's a super flagship IEM, not in the lower tier flagship IEMs. In this category, unless something else comes in until December, watch this space. I think this is going to win a CMA award. So, in conclusion, should you buy the QDC Tiger? Yes. I think you should choose it if you fancy reference above everything else that I have reviewed on the channel as of now in this price category. Genuinely. If you like reviews such as these, consider joining Patreon, where you get reviews before anyone else. They land on Patreon first, then YouTube. You get to join the private Telegram chat where I will discuss all of these equipment with you as they're coming in, as they're being tested, their pitfalls, etc., until we get our final thoughts in line and we come and shoot the review. And if that's not your thing, jump in the public Telegram chat. I jump in there often and have a chat with you guys as well. QDC, thank you so much for sending this unit in for review. I really do appreciate it. Until the next time, peace.